So the Sacramento Kings did something that I felt like they should have done easily in the offseason, but for some reason they waited until, 17 games in the middle of the season to decide to do it. And I don't know if there's stuff going on behind the scenes that resulted in this, or if it was just a horrible on-the-court product that resulted in this, but needless to say, I feel like this was a change that needed to happen. Now, before we get to the content, man, make sure you leave a like, consider subscribing, and turning on our notifications to help the channel grow. We currently have a Black Friday clearance sale on my merch on TheFlightMike.com. It's going to be gone after this Friday, so if you want to get casual merch or hoodies, now's the time to get it. And of course, make sure you check us out on the Laced Up podcast. If I'm not posting here so much, I will at least be posting on the Laced Up podcast at least once a week if you need to get your NBA fix. Now that we got all that out of the way, cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? I don't know if you guys know this, but there was a point in my life where I was a bit of a Luke Walton stan, and you have to also understand the situation I was in at the time. Like, the Los Angeles Lakers, were just coming off of a horrific season with Byron Scott as our head coach, and then all of a sudden, this young head coach that won multiple championships as a member of the Los Angeles Lakers was one of Kobe Bryant's favorite teammates and role players when he was with the Los Angeles Lakers, and who happened to coach the Golden State Warriors to a 24-0 record during the 2015 to 2016 season. And I'm sure that was all because of Luke Walton and no other factors at all whatsoever. While Steve Kerr was out during those games in the regular season, I felt like the Los Angeles Lakers hit a home run. I mean, I felt like Luke Walton's pedigree as one of those young head coaches that also was coached by Phil Jackson. He was just the perfect guy to take over for the Los Angeles Lakers organization in the 2016 season. And to be honest, I feel like his fate would have been a lot different if there was some sort of alternate universe where LeBron James never became a Los Angeles Laker. I felt like things would have been way different, because it was one of those situations where a promising rebuilding team just out of nowhere had the opportunity to bring in a once-in-a-generation type of talent, and well, you can't really say no to that. But if you look a little bit before the Lakers were able to attract LeBron James, they did have pieces in place to at least look somewhat respectable in the NBA, and I feel like this could have been, it's really hard to say, but this is a team that had Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, Brook Lopez, Ivica Zubac, Alex Caruso, Julius Randle. Well, I guess it's kind of hard to say whether or not they would have been anything good or not if LeBron James didn't come, but much like the 2017 Brooklyn Nets, that began to look really promising underneath D'Angelo Russell and Spencer Dinwiddie and company, LeBron James comes over to the Los Angeles Lakers, and after playing with Luke Walton for a year and obviously the existing Los Angeles Lakers supporting cast, eventually decides that he needs to fire Luke Walton and trade away practically every other member of his supporting cast at one point or another. I mean, currently LeBron is the longest tenured Laker on this terrible pigsty monstrosity of a team that we see before us, but that's a different conversation for a different day. What was really interesting about this is the moment that Luke Walton was fired, well, he had this opportunity to join the Sacramento Kings, and that's something that I never would have anticipated. I felt like this was a situation where, okay, Luke, you're clearly not that incredible of a head coach. He finished 37-45 in his final season with the Lakers, and now you could expect him to potentially go back to being an assistant coach. But he got another gig with the Sacramento Kings, and I'm not gonna lie, at the time I felt like it was a pretty damn good hire. I mean, once again, you get a young coach that gets to coach a up-and-coming team that, yeah, for the most part, they've been making terrible decisions, but they had some pretty nice players throughout their years. I mean, Nemanja Bjelica, Bogdan Bogdanovic, Marvin Bagley, but of course you have Buddy Hield, De'Aaron Fox, but things were just not looking good for the Sacramento Kings. I mean, Luke Walton has always been notorious for putting out these really strange lineups, and I guess as a result, that's something that might have alienated Buddy Hield throughout the years, but throughout it all, it would seem like Luke Walton completely gave up on developing Marvin Bagley. He would alienate Buddy Hield. Yeah, of course, the Kings did hit on the draft pick of Tyrese Halliburton, but for the most part, it just seemed like Luke Walton wasn't improving the Sacramento Kings at all. I mean, throughout his first 2 seasons he was there, the Sacramento Kings finished 12th in the Western Conference, and it seemed like this year they were once again headed for a very similar finish. As a matter of fact, at the time I'm recording this video, the Sacramento Kings are 12th in the Western Conference. Now, I know we all make fun of the Sacramento Kings. I know I make fun of the Sacramento Kings. They have been like this terrible team for honestly longer than a decade at this point. It's getting kind of sad. I mean, there's nothing worse than just being in a perpetuated rebuild where typically I understand if your best players are leaving to other teams, it does get depressing. Like the New Orleans Pelicans, for example, they lost Chris Paul and they had to trade him to the Los Angeles Clippers. Eventually, Anthony Davis got sick of that situation there. Then he got traded to the Los Angeles Lakers. And for all you know, Zion Williamson might not even make it onto the court, but I wouldn't be surprised if at some point he wants to go to a large market. But in this instance, you don't even have that. You have the occasional hitting on your draft picks like De'Aaron Fox, for example, and Tyrese Halliburton. Of course, you have the absolute misses on draft picks like, I'm sorry, but Marvin Bagley doesn't look like he's going to be any type of good player in the NBA whatsoever. I maybe at some point he could prove us wrong, but it just seems like he is so average on offense and just so horrible on defense that it's not even worth trotting him out there. He might be a high-end role player throughout his career, and this is the guy you drafted before Luka Doncic. Fine, but it's not all bad because there have been moments where the Kings made a move that looked really bad but ended up being really good, like trading DeMarcus Cousins for a package centered around Buddy Hield. So at this point, my expectations for the Kings, and at least what they should be shooting for, is to at least be a play-in team. You know, there needs to be some sort of improvement. I think between the core of Buddy Hield, De'Aaron Fox, Harrison Barnes, Tyrese Halliburton, and I don't really know about Davion Mitchell so far. It's very early into his career, but I don't really like what I'm seeing so far. But I think between those players, you do have at least a play-in team. And you're getting to the point where this is starting to turn into prove to De'Aaron Fox that he should stay here time. You have about 3 years to do it before he's a free agent. I could understand why Luke Walton was fired at this point. You guys were hitting a wall. The change needed to be made. The roster does marginally improve, but not by much, if you ask me. So this does make sense. As to what I expect to happen to Luke Walton next, I don't know, man. Probably go back to being an assistant for the Golden State Warriors. Maybe he could even find himself on the assistant coaching staff of the Los Angeles Lakers. According to Adrian Wojnarowski, the official announcement is the Sacramento Kings fired Luke Walton on Sunday. Sources told ESPN Kings have lost 7 of 8 games and dropped to 6-11 on the season, leaving him 12th in the Western Conference. Now, this is kind of cool. It looks like either first-year assistant coach and Sacramento Kings legend Doug Christie or Kings associate head coach Alvin Gentry is expected to get strong consideration to serve as interim head coach. Walton was 68 and 93 in 2+ seasons as Kings head coach. Personally, I'm really liking this decision, but to be honest, once again, I'm not going to be that confident in a team that just paid Tristan Thompson big money, gave Bogdan Bogdanovic away for free, and took Marvin Bagley over Luka Doncic. So let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about this. If you're a Sacramento Kings fan, how are you feeling about this? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.